So Battlefield 6 has been out for a few days now, and most of us have had a chance to really get into the game and get a feel for the gameplay. And while playing, I couldn't shake this feeling that something feels different from the Battlefield 6 I experienced during the open beta. And I'm not alone, I've noticed more and more players starting to point this out and opening discussions about it. So let's break down what's actually going on with the current gameplay and why it feels so different from the initial Battlefield 6 experience we had during the open beta. Now before we get into it, I want to be clear, I'm not saying that the open beta was good and the launch version is bad, or the other way around. It's pretty stupid to paint everything black or white, or to automatically assume that someone is wrong just because they enjoy the fast movement or low recoil gunplay. This is more about understanding the direction of Battlefield 6 and its place within the modern gaming landscape, both as a game and as a franchise. As a disclaimer, I'm not on either side of this movement debate. I can enjoy both fast-paced shooters and also appreciate the slower, more tactical approach of classic Battlefield games. While I'm not a diehard movement player and I didn't play that much Call of Duty, I did play a lot of Apex Legends since it came out, and I really liked the movement style and the way it felt like a truly modern shooter at that time. And this was more about the smoothness of the movement, not necessarily the speed, but we'll touch on this aspect later in the context of Battlefield 6. The bottom line is that I'd like to play a Battlefield game that maintains its identity while also feeling modern. We can't expect games coming out in 2025 to feel like games that came out a decade ago. We also need some innovation in this space, or the franchise becomes stagnant. The community has been divided about the movement in Battlefield 6 from the early stages of the beta. Some enjoyed it, others absolutely hated it, immediately associating it with how Call of Duty plays. It felt like a clash between the old school Battlefield veterans and those who were new to the franchise or came from other modern shooters. And despite all this controversy, here's the thing, most of the players who actually tried the open beta had a positive impression about it. It was fun, it was refreshing, and it felt like something the FPS genre really needed given the current landscape where everything feels the same. The beta had issues, sure, but there was an energy to it that felt exciting. Now that we've finally gotten to experience the full release and play the complete game, we can see some major differences in terms of movement and gunplay compared to the beta. And while many players are applauding the changes, saying that DICE did good nerfing the movement, I don't think that they had a chance to really look closely at how this affects the overall flow of the game. Here's where I stand. I do think that the extreme movement, the constant bunny hops and those 180-degree twitch flick kills felt out of place in Battlefield. Those really needed adjustment. But here's the problem. I think that the current movement has changed into something that feels less fluid and honestly even clunky at times. And I need you to understand the nuance here, because this is important. This is not a matter of speed, it's about the smoothness of the movement and how you are interacting with the environment. I feel like the current changes are throwing off your aim at times without any real reason, and they make you feel slower than necessary just for the sake of feeling grounded. It's like they added an artificial weight to your character that doesn't translate to better gameplay. It just feels restrictive. But it seems like DICE just nerfed the movement in the wrong way, because those extreme plays are still possible. So it feels like they missed the mark with this change. We lost the smoothness and fluidity of movement that we had during the beta, but we didn't actually fix the problems people were complaining about. Also, if you want more honest breakdowns like this about what's actually happening with Battlefield 6, consider subscribing. And on top of the movement changes, the gunplay is another aspect that feels fundamentally different from the beta. A lot of people have been complaining about the adjusted bullet spread, saying that it makes gunplay feel less consistent. I think this change was made in an attempt to make weapons feel more realistic, you know, giving them more authentic recoil patterns and bullet deviation. The thing is that it somehow threw off the flow of the game again. Making guns feel more real won't necessarily create better gunplay, especially in a game like Battlefield, where there are loads of players on a map, vehicles, destructions and chaos happening simultaneously. The conditions aren't the same as real life. And chances are these realistic changes will either feel unbalanced, clunky, or just straight up wrong in most cases. This is most obvious when you compare assault rifles to SMGs. Right now, SMGs have basically the same damage output as ARs, but with noticeably less recoil. This makes them better than assault rifles at medium range, and sometimes even at longer ranges, which feels completely backwards. It feels off because these SMGs are easier to handle, they have less recoil, they deal the same damage, and they have good enough range, making them objectively better overall than assault rifles or carbines in most situations. Now, I know that there were discussions during the open beta about the time to kill being too fast, and I know DICE said they didn't adjust the raw damage numbers, but somehow the time to kill now feels noticeably slower when I'm playing with assault rifles or carbines. Like during my first few matches at launch, I was running out of ammo constantly while using the M4. That wasn't happening during the beta at all. If you pay attention to the gameplay clips rolling right now, you can see how quickly my ammo gets depleted when engagements last longer, and because most fights in Battlefield happen at medium range, it amplifies the amount of bullets and the time it takes to kill someone. In contrast, when I switch to an SMG, I have way more consistency and way less pushback and recoil. It just feels better, which shouldn't be the case. And here's one more thing that's been driving me crazy. The visibility seems genuinely problematic in certain situations, especially when you're inside the building trying to fight someone outside, or when you run out of a building into exterior lighting. The light is way too overwhelming. It's almost like getting flashbanged every time you transition from indoors to outdoors. The light contrast in certain situations seems broken. Your eyes don't adjust properly, and enemies become silhouettes that are impossible to see clearly. I've died so many times because I literally couldn't see the person shooting at me due to the lighting blowing out on my screen. This wasn't noticeable during the beta, or at least it wasn't extreme. Now it feels like a legitimate gameplay issue. So here's my take after playing both versions extensively. It seems like the changes were made with good intentions, trying to slow the game down or make it feel more grounded and tactical. But even if the intention behind it was good, the execution is missing the mark. These changes took away from the smoothness and fluidity that won so many of us over when we first experienced Battlefield 6 during the beta. I'm really curious to know if you felt the same thing. Does Battlefield 6 feel different to you compared to the beta? Do you think these changes made the game better or worse? Let me know in the comments because I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.